everybody. Man, Eric Wilson, Sports Arena. I had to bring the whole entire crew because a phenomenal thing just happened last night. And also, happy 420 to everybody. But Florida Sun Review, Alex Fleming, NBC Sports Hangover, Mike Carotenuto, Turning Point Podcast, Mr. Jake Rongholt. And gentlemen, hey, last night I stayed up way past my bedtime just to make sure I watched the entire 2 hours of episodes 1 and 2 of The Last Dance. So, Alex, I actually want to talk to you first because, you from the area. So this was a stroll down memory lane in your childhood for you, man.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. A lot of my friends were excited and looking forward to this. And I'm like, I'm sure it's going to be nice. I lived it. Of course I'm going to watch, but you're not going to watch the same way as me. Me, it's a stroll back down memory lane. Champaign, Chicago, Stitcher, Ludley, Paxton, Buckley, Lotus, Streeter, Aurora, Bloomington, Normal. This was all about Illinois. Michael Jordan did more on the basketball court than any of the politicians, any of the governors, any of the police, whether they're corrupt or not, anything in that city, state. He was influential. He impacted millennials, Generation Z, and people before him. Let's not even compare him to LeBron, because I'm not going to compare him to LeBron, because you can't compare him to LeBron. It's easier to compare LeBron to Scottie Pippen. Michael Jordan was the best player. He was Jesus in a basketball suit. After what he did to Larry Bird, which was a fond memory of me, 63, 5, and 6. Like I said, I lived it. Larry Bird was like, that's the best thing I've ever seen. And Magic and Larry, Patrick Ewing, everybody knew that he was going to be unstoppable once he got the proper tools around him.
Hey, hold that thought. Hey, Mike, you're going to have to mute this real quick, brother. Your engine's revving up on us here. Okay, go ahead, Alex.
As I was saying, Michael Jordan was a human highlight reel. They took a chance at him out of North Carolina, but they knew darn well they were going to kill him because Portland needed Sam Bowie, because the year before they drafted Clyde Drexler. If they only would have known. Phi Slamma Jamma in Houston was legit, all right? Whether you love it or hate it, Hakeem Olajuwon in college was the man. There was no way in hell Michael Jordan was going to get drafted ahead of Hakeem Olajuwon, because at the time, he was the man.
Right.
Okay, so you understand. Number one, explained. Number two, explained. And number four was Dallas off of a trade from Cleveland. They were going to get Michael Jordan, but that's why Chicago went up with Jerry Krause and went up to that spot. I was like, no, we need him. Thank you. He's ours. And it changed the entire fortune of the city. I actually believe the 92-93 team is better than the 95-96 squad that went 72-9. I'm not going to say they went 72-10 because they got robbed at home against the Indiana Pacers because there was a referee who hated Michael. They got screwed that game. They should actually have a record of 73-9, but that's a completely different story that you wouldn't understand unless you were there and you lived it. I loved it. I'm not going to take up the time. Come to me as a source.
Let me go to Jake because, Jake, you spent some time in Chicago, as a writer, as a reporter, kind of where I would say maybe your radio days kind of got started. So, while you were there, and I know you were really excited to watch this, give me your thoughts on, The Last Dance and everything from just being a part of it.
Well, it goes actually back to my time in Minnesota because I had WGN Sports, and I became a big Bulls fan in 1990. At 4 years old, I got to watch MJ fight the Bad Boys, and that was when I became a Bulls fan. I'm still a Bulls fan because Gar Foreman and John Paxson are now finally fired, and now we got a new day and age coming in for Chicago. I'm just happy that this documentary came out at that time because I go back when I was a kid, and I used to get to school about an hour and a half early before everybody else. And I would pick up the Minneapolis Star-Tribune or the Pioneer Press, go right to the sports page, and find out how many points Michael Jordan had in that game, how many points Scottie Pippen was. Tony Kukoc, a big aspect of that game. And I did that for years. I watched all the games on WGN, all the games on NBC, and all the games on TNT. This was it was like going back in a DeLorean and going back to when it all began, because when they started off The Last Dance, 1982 national championship, North Carolina, Georgetown. There's Patrick Ewing, and that rivalry began. And all Dean Smith is, he takes a timeout. He's talking to James Worthy, And he tells James Worthy, the best basketball player out there, he says, I want you to pass it to Michael if he is open. And what happens? Michael is open. Clutch shot. North Carolina wins the national championship when Michael Jordan was just a freshman, still learning the game of basketball and becoming what he became. This was just such a brilliant first episode. I loved every minute of it because it not only just mixes up the nostalgia, but also gives you that feel of this secret undercover film crew that followed the Chicago Bulls to the 97-98 season, and just blown away by all of the ego that was going upon this team. It was rampant across Jerry Krause, the general manager, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and even Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson lost respect for Krause because he decided, you're going to have 1 year. I don't care if you win 82 games. You are no longer the coach of the Chicago Bulls in 1999. It was incredible.
Yeah. Listen, man, let me just chime in real quick, Alex, and I'll let you, I definitely want to get Mike in as well.
Look at that, Alex.
For me, this was those formative years because I was in high school, man. I was in high school when they won their first three, and then I was in college when Jordan came back and they won their second three. So for me, it was all about basketball. And I'll be the first one to admit to y'all, I was never a Jordan fan. I was a Patrick Ewing fan. When you talk about 82 and that UNC Georgetown game, just put the knife in my heart, man, because, I was a Patrick Ewing fan from Georgetown. But I will say this. The one thing I will always say is whether you love him or you hate him, I respected what the man did. Maybe not from the perspective of Alex, being a young man who was actually there in the city, getting to see it all happening, or even you, Jake, at your age, reading the paper. I just love the game of basketball, and that's why when the Magic opened the doors for me and Alex and Jake, for all of us to go to games, I was like, yeah, let's go, let's ride. But this was whoever put this together, if they don't get some type of award for this, and not just the ESPN award, I'm talking like an Emmy or something, from the music to the clothes, just to the general conversation about how everything played out, I was like, damn. It took me back. When you say DeLorean, it just took me back to that time frame. And I was just I was captivated for the full 2 hours. Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Jacob, because I love the DeLorean comment, much tighter. I wanted to ask you a question. What did you think when Dean Smith himself told him, get out of here, go pro?
I loved it because if there was one coach out there that knew what to do with his basketball players, it was Dean Smith. Dean Smith didn't care what the media thought. He didn't care about what anyone thought except himself. If him and his assistant coaches, which Roy Williams was part of, looked at him and said, this guy needs to go pro immediately. And as soon as there was no one and done rule at that point. They were still in that rule. And he was eligible to go as a junior. As soon as that happened, he said, go pro. You're going to be one of the best of all time. And I loved every single second of that quote. But the best thing is about watching The Last Dance, I shut off my phone. I turned off my Apple Watch. I wanted no interruptions. I wanted radio silence so I could sit there and just embrace all of this amazing footage that nobody has ever seen before except till now, and just be blown away by it.
Mike, go ahead, jump in, man. I know you got to where you needed to go, brother, so talk to us about it.
Hi, Mike.
Hi. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Actually,
No, you good. I just want to say one last thing. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is like, well, first of all, you guys are sounding like you're way older, but I remember watching the Celtics game, and I was 9, and I literally had watched basketball and Lakers, Celtics, Bird, Johnson. And then Michael Jordan puts up 49. I didn't know. I knew he played golf, but Danny Ainge whoops him on the golf course. And then I love that line. One of the last thing he said, he goes, "Yeah, tell DJ I got something for him tomorrow." Dude put up 63. And when Bird said that was God disguised as Michael Jordan. Mark Wahlberg said this morning, because that's probably the nicest thing Larry Bird ever said about anybody. Because if you knew Larry Bird, he was going to talk trash, but he could back it up. And that's what
all the time, especially against Magic.
Well, yeah, but even I mean, that my favorite Bird one, side note, is the Xavier McDaniel one where he's like, X, I'm going to catch the ball right here. I'm going to take a dribble. I'm going to shoot it and win the game. And he's like, there's no way. He just told me to play. Bird caught the ball, took the dribble, took the shot, looked at X and said, told you so. I mean, like, so when you put up 63 on that whole defense, I mean, again, when they showed that bench shot of the 5 Hall of Famers, it was insane.
Absolutely and no insane. One had an answer for him. That's what I didn't understand.
Yeah, Dennis Johnson had 4 fouls.
Yeah, DJ.
Yeah, I mean, they had. You're talking about one of the greatest teams of all time. You had Dennis Johnson, Bill Walton, Danny Ainge, Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, and Kevin McHale all on the same team. And all the Bulls had was Charles Oakley to help out Michael Jordan, and he was just the enforcer for him. He was the one helping out on defense. That was all Michael Jordan, and it was in Game 2 of the 1986. That was the first round, and I didn't know that.
67-15.
Right. I mean,
we had no business being there. We barely made the playoffs.
Right.
30
game
That's
winner.
Amazing.
I mean, it's what the Eastern Conference was then too. No, but
30-52.
That being said, like he did what Michael Jordan did with. I mean, he did have Orlando Woolridge, who in his prime. Again, I'm not going to say he was Scottie Pippen, but at least somebody's there. But Michael Jordan was. I mean, again, the game goes to overtime.
Double overtime.
Well, right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying. Yeah. Kevin McHale doesn't think he fouled him. I'm like, come on, dude. You're 6'11". He ran right through the dude. I mean, come on. Like, and then Tommy, I love hearing like the background of like Tommy Heinsohn with Dick Stockton calling the game too. But overall, I mean, when you were talking about like, Phil Jackson having to go 82-0, and Reinsdorf even said people told him to stay away from Krause because he rubs people the wrong way, but he's like, he could assemble a team. But, and Eric, I mean, and I said this last night because one of my friends and I were going back and forth on Twitter, and I go, literally, it has nothing to do with being a homer or bringing it in the conversation, but I go, it's the same thing, and you and I have talked about it, Eric, with Jerry Jones with Jimmy Johnson. Like, you're the owner. Your franchise is going to be worth billions. It's going to keep going up. Who cares who gets the credit? Jimmy Johnson pulled off those trades. Yeah. He put the coaching staff together. He put the team together. So you bring Phil Jackson in as an assistant coach under Doug Collins, and then you want him gone. You want to blow it up because now, there's this and that. I mean, like everybody said, a general manager, I mean, unless he was a player, but for the most part, they're not making any shots. They're not executing any plays. So it's like, be excited with the championships. People know who the general manager is. You put the team together, you'll get GM of the year just because your team always wins. I mean, so yeah, I mean, and again, it was, I mean, that part of it, I knew. I was hoping, I mean, again, and it sucks that we have to wait till next
full
Sunday.
week.
I was hoping the Rodman stuff would start yesterday too, because Dennis Rodman, to me, again, like coming from obviously the complete enemy in the Pistons to the Bulls, and I mean, literally the best rebounder in the game.
Wasn't he? Didn't they get him from San Antonio though? He was in San Antonio before he got to Chicago.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, okay.
Dennis Rodman was in a trade when he was in San Antonio with Avery Johnson and Billy Dillon.
That's what I just wanted to. I mean, I knew he originally had played for the Pistons, but then he went to San Antonio.
That's right.
Before he got to Chicago, and even that. I mean, I was listening to him this morning on First Take, and he was talking about how they set up when they would go out to dinner. They set up a triangle because they didn't speak to each other. Rodman didn't talk to Pippen and didn't talk to Jordan. And I was just like, how is this even fathomable? You are playing with this guy night in and night out, and yet you are still able to separate the business from the personal. And granted, let's make no mistake about it, Dennis Rodman is a very unique character all on his own. So, Alex, I see your mind working over there. Talk to me about this, brother, because – I mean, Dennis Rodman said and Mike, you'll appreciate this. He was in a Cowboys jersey today. He said when they would go out to dinner.
I saw that. I did see it.
They would set up in a triangle so that they just had their own time. How do you do that?
Okay. 91, 92, after they won the first championship.
Very easily.
Pippen knew that he was getting underpaid, but he recognized it then, but he didn't want to say anything because he just got the bag. He realized a year after he signed that contract that he made a mistake. but it was too damn late. He had Reinsdorf with him, and Reinsdorf looked him in the eyes and said, you should probably rethink this contract. Because Reinsdorf knew what Krause was doing. He was getting an up-and-coming player who was going to be the number 2 to Michael Jordan, who was a hell of a player in college on a very cheap contract, but basically for free. You'll make more money off of him off endorsements, let alone what you were doing off the Chicago Sun-Times or anything that you were doing in sales, okay? The Chicago Bulls was a joke of a franchise. They had indoor soccer beating them. Bro,
the Chicago Sting.
The White Sox were the garbage team in baseball. You got to think, the White Sox won their championship in 04-05, and people celebrated that for about a month or two. The Cubs just broke 108-plus years of history, and we're still celebrating that. So whenever Michael Jordan brought that energy and that chemistry with Bill Cartwright, John Paxson, Bill Willington, B.J. Armstrong, more I can name. Trust me, Mike, I'm being nice. Hell, let me go to the 95-96 squad because I'm forgetting about Luke Longley, Tony Kukoc from Croatia, Ron Harper, Dennis Rodman. That defensive team was shutting people down left and right. They lost a game to Miami and was upset at the fact that they gave away a game at home and embarrassed themselves in front of their fans. They had nothing but a business mentality when we went down to Miami and beat them within an inch of their life.
Okay,
that was the year that they went 72-10, and they wanted to let everybody know this is the Bulls team. Nothing's changed. You had 2 years without Michael playing baseball, and the second he comes back, Orlando's trying to build their chest out, and everybody's trying to win championships.
And the Magic, they had that number because MJ came back late in the season and they were able to beat the Bulls and then come back and a year later and the Bulls are back to being the kings of the NBA. So, I mean, it's crazy to me. That's why I love that Magic moment, 30 for 30, because it's just like 1 year, 2 year, whoop, gone.
But still answer me this question, guys. You play with Michael Jordan, the best basketball player to ever lace up a pair of Jordans, okay? If you're Dennis Rodman, how do you not in some way, how does he keep it strictly business? That's
my apologies. Okay, my apologies. Dennis Rodman knew that he was towards the end of his career and he was getting in trouble left and right with the NBA and with players. Sometimes it wasn't even his fault, but it was his reputation that he got from Detroit. So he wanted to change out of San Antonio because he was unhappy. He realized that Krause approached him with an offer, and he made more than Scottie Pippen did in the 3 years that he was on the Bulls than Pippen's entire contract. When they won in 95-96, it was just a perfect chemistry because how Charles Barkley and Phoenix was keeping in the game in 92-93, they were killing them on the rebounds. You know, Bill Cartwright couldn't keep up with the up-tempo Phoenix Suns, and they were getting back into the game because they were getting more rebounds. Switch up the rebounding game because you already got the number 1 and number 2 best players in the world. Let's see what happens. And Rodman came out spitting. The team left him the hell alone. He was a hell of a rebounder. He was actually pretty good from the free throw line, and he had a quiet shot. He didn't create any problems, and his offseason was his offseason. That Vegas trip happened more than once, okay? That 48 hours thing, that happened more than once, so don't be surprised about that. Dennis was a model citizen because he knew that he could cut at any time, and he liked winning rings. Who doesn't like jewelry? They saw what they did with 95 and 96, and they was like, we can keep this going. No one's going to stop us but us. And that's exactly
right. But here's the thing, too, Alex. Here's the thing, too, is that when you're saying that that, you know, they left him alone. I mean, in the beginning it was Dennis, but the person that did leave alone because it was going to mess and that he got on the level with him, whether he reached out to Chuck Daly or not. But I remember reading a lot of stuff. I mean, Phil Jackson spent a decent amount of time with Dennis Rodman, more so probably than some of the other players, just because, yes, Dennis was Dennis. He was going to kick a cameraman in the groin that probably deserved it. Who knows? Because he thought he'd try to roll his ankle. No, the guy didn't deserve it. But Dennis Rodman, I mean, yeah, what he meant to that team and being, like I said, one of the best rebounders in the league. And you look at him, but that clip that they showed for next week when Dennis is tied and him and Michael go for a rebound and Michael lets it go and then he hands the ball to Michael and pats him on the butt. You know, so they definitely, I mean, even at the time, Michael Jordan, I remember reading stuff and I mean, like Jay said, you'd always want to read stuff, but reading articles about just, Michael Jordan, people saying, oh, how are you going to get along with Dennis? And I mean, of course, what is he going to say? He's a terrible guy. No, Dennis is great. He fits in the offense. It works out great. And
yeah, but Mike, we've never known Jordan, and even in this documentary that we were watching, we've never known Jordan to hold his tongue when it comes to his players and when it comes to what he is trying to achieve. So,
right. I'm sure we'll see next week, too, that he'll probably say stuff to Rodman in practice. It wasn't what they're – I mean, come on. Granted, he said he was a rookie, and the whole thing with the whole team in the hotel room with, the girls and the drugs and everything like that. And he's like, I didn't even drink at the time. He's like, I'm out of here, because if it gets rated, right, I'm going down with them.
Oh, yeah.
So, I just think that in practice he could say things to Robin, because Robin wasn't going to be a 5-year-old and take his ball and go home. Phil Jackson wouldn't have tolerated that. But I'm with you because, it is kind of weird. And I know that, the whole thing with Pippen, too, which, I mean, again, Krause is – again, and picking on Krause, disrespecting the GM. I mean, even when Phil, who likes to challenge his players to be vocal, when he's saying, hey, you got to tone it down. I mean, that was kind of – and, again, Pippen was pissed, but Reinsdorf told him don't sign the contract, and he's the owner. The owner's telling him not to.
Okay, but here's the thing, Mike, and you got to look at it from Pippen's perspective, all right? It's a family. He's got a dad and a brother in a wheelchair.
Absolutely.
He came from
part of 12 kids.
Right. He came
I know.
from nothing.
I fire my agent though. Any smart agent, Eric, is going to tell you not to get more. You're telling me he couldn't have got over the life of the contract. He did for 7 years for 18 million, whatever it was. He couldn't have got an extra 12 million out of that, even if it was 7 for 30, which isn't the best. But back then it would have been really good.
Right.
So, I'm holding my tongue.
No, go ahead, Alex.
His agent should be fired.
Okay, first and foremost, did I not mention Reaganomics? We're talking 86, 87, and this guy's coming from UCA, University of Central Arkansas. One, people probably didn't give a damn about Scottie Pippen.
Right, but he signed it in 91.
For an agent. Secondly, third, he was definitely being used because they were marketing off of him as Central Arkansas. So who the hell is going to be a good advisor when you're going to get ripped off from a trade from the Seattle Supersonics to go to Chicago and Jerry Krause when he knows damn well that you and your family are suffering? You're going to jump on the quickest bag that you can find. And he took
sure, they look at all that. I know they look at all that, Alex, but at the same time, but he leaves Central Arkansas. He signed it, 86, 87. He signs that in 91 when we saw what Pippen was, especially defensively. I mean, Jordan improved his defense, and I think Pippen was a reason for that. Just because Michael Jordan, like Phil Jackson said, do you want to be known as a scorer? Do you want to win championships? And Phil Jackson got Michael Jordan's face about. I mean, they didn't go to blows, but I mean that's very well documented. And Phil Jackson said that. But with Scottie Pippen, I mean, you have to look at it, and your agent has to say, okay, they're pretty quick to offer you this. Any agent. If I was the freaking agent at the time and I was in high school, I would have been like, you're not taking this deal. We're not taking this deal. Your contract's up after this year. They don't want it. Hey, you'll hit the market and you'll get a ton of money because you're going to win a title with Michael Jordan. You're going to bust your ass. We saw what he was defensively. He was the defensive heart of that team.
Why do you think Jerry Krause jumped on that deal after they won the first championship?
Right, but Jerry Reinsdorf told him not to sign it. The owner told him not to sign the deal.
Well, sometimes players are not going to be listening to that. They're just going to be listening to the needs of what they need for their family. I mean, you got to remember, he is one of 12 kids. He wants to get a house for his parents. He wants to be able to take care of his brothers and sisters and all this. So he was desperate. So he took the 7-year, made $2.58 million a year, and I mean, it's Scottie's fault. Scottie is the one that said, "Yes, I will take the deal," and he's always going to take that blame.
Mike,
it's not the agent's fault. It's not Jerry Reinsdorf. It's not Jerry Krause. It's Scottie Pippen.
Mike, let me ask you a question really quick. Hold up, Mike. Let me ask you a question. You come from a big family, okay? You do. So let's say you have let's say right now you're at NBC Sports Radio, you got your nice little job there. But let's say ESPN comes calling because they've seen you, they like you, they want to offer you something. And you want to get your family out of their current situation to make sure they never have to want again. Okay? If ESPN comes calling you and they say, hey, Mike, here's what we're going to do for you, and they offer you, and let's say they lowball it and give you $110 a year, okay, $110,000 a year. Are you going to take that offer, or are you going to wait in hopes that because of who you are, you could get more?
Well, I'm not going to take that. Well, okay, yes. At the heart of it, I want to take the offer. But if they come in offering that right away, I mean, come on, they got to figure it's a negotiation. You can't live back east on 110 a year. I'm sorry.
No, you can't. But that's what I'm saying.
You can't live back east on 110 a year. So it becomes a negotiation. I would say I know I'm not going to get Mike Greenberg, 10 mil. I'm not saying that, obviously. But at the same time, if I come back to them and say I want, if they came in at 110 and I'm thinking something like 250, I'll be like, I'm not doing it for any less than 175, which is still low back there, but it's fine because I'll be working a lot anyway. And there's always, obviously, with advertising and sponsor and stuff like that, there's always room for more. But I want a guaranteed 175 from them. And if they're going to say, well, we can do 115, I'm going to be like, cool. I'll be like, cool. Are you buying my house then too? Wait, 115 plus you buy the house and I own it? Like, I mean, again, I get what you guys are saying. And at the time, I'm 100% with you, Alex and Jake. But your agent has to – I mean, look, David Robinson, they were saying in the Sage Steele was talking to Mark Wahlberg this morning. And I caught that on Instagram when you and I were talking, Eric, and I was listening to him. And Sage Steele was saying at the time, David Robinson was the highest paid player in the NBA, I think making a little bit over like 6 or something like that. Michael Jordan was making under 6. And it's like, okay, that's what the economics at the time of the NBA was. But Michael Jordan, I mean, the articles, Alex, you saw, I mean, granted, and I know we're talking Scottie Pippen, but Michael Jordan was making 3 times that money because I was talking to Eric and Jake about this too, and I'm sure you know this being there, Alex. When Nike came out, approached Michael Jordan, the NBA had a deal with Reebok. Nike paid Michael Jordan's fine the whole year for him to wear Jordans because they knew. And Michael Jordan, of course, rookie or not, but Nike got, his agent. And that's when players said, hey, you don't get to pick the shoe deals. We want endorsements.
So it wasn't just the shoe deals, though. Michael was on every single corner of an endorsement. He was McDonald's, he was Nike, he was Hanes, Gatorade, he was everything.
Gatorade. Yeah, no, I know, Jake. That's what I'm saying. But and for
that's
Scottie
what he was
Pippen,
making. That's why he didn't care about the $6 million.
Right. So but he did because he still always wanted to be the highest paid player. That's why he got that 38-40 million for that 1 year. But my point is to Eric, yeah, if you're thinking of your future, then you totally have to and your family, I mean, you're going to take it. That's a ton of money back then, but his agent should have held him out.
Okay. All right.
You know what really surprised me the most, though?
Michael Jordan was worth every
How surprised was everybody by that story that they talked about in 85-86 when Michael broke his left foot? And it was less than a torn ACL. But they had him on minutes restrictions. And, I mean, we talk about load management and all that nowadays. But look what they did back to Michael at that point, which it started the frosty relationship between management and Jordan because he was playing 7 minutes a game. And then when he got to play with the Pacers, against the Pacers,
7 minutes a
playing
half.
14 minutes.
Yeah, it was 7 minutes and a half.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
And it was John Paxson that hit that game-winning shot against the Pacers. I sat back. I was like, I did not know any of this. Are you kidding me? No wonder he had a frosty relationship.
Reaganomics, bro. They didn't give a damn about the Bulls. They didn't give a damn about the players. NBA was just a money league. It was trying to get away from a bad image. Thank God for the Celtics. Thank God for the Lakers. But yeah, the NBA had a pretty bad image, and it was because of the success of the Chicago Bulls that Pippen got enraged. Because if you think about it, after that 91 year, everything changed. People started making double-digit contracts. Michael Jordan's contract was inflating each and every year. Rodman came in, won 3 championships, and averaged more than $12 million per. Think about that. They started signing international players more than ever before because the Bulls were the best. WGN. I love that. Used to have
games Larrabee, Tom Door, baby.
I digress, though. The Chicago Bulls gave NBA a different peak and a different look that people weren't used to, that people wanted to gravitate to, and people were like, man, we're seeing greatness in the making. That's why I say if you're going to compare LeBron James to Jordan, stop. Get through Pippen, and then we can have that conversation.
And also think about this, too.
6 is always going to be more than 3.
Think about the storylines that MJ was able to create because we were in midway through the Celtics and the Lakers rivalry, and the NBA was looking for something. And out of nowhere comes this bad boys team, the Detroit Pistons, and they are just brutal. Even on the likes of Michael Jordan. I mean, next week we get the preview. I can't wait to watch that, because when you watch that Bad Boys 30
Jordan
for 30, oh my goodness, Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, John Sally, Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer against MJ. And even and remember, that was the big
Vinny
rivalry.
Johnson. Don't forget the microwave, Vinny Johnson.
They needed a rivalry to move into the 90s into that, and they got that with the Bad Boys versus MJ, and that's when the great continued. And then look at his wins in the NBA Finals. He played against the Lakers with MJ, with Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and all that. Played Clyde the Glide Drexler. He played Charles Barkley in his prime, Sean Kemp in his prime with the Sonics, and then, of course, the Mailman and John Stockton. That's what makes him the GOAT, because all those storylines all started with his game against the Celtics, and he was able to push him with the Bad Boys, and then all the big rivalries he had in the NBA Finals. That's what makes Michael Jordan who he is.
Jake had started them, but I mean, the rest of the 80s was still the Lakers and the Celtics. So,
no doubt. But it was like the beginning of a storyline.
Right. The Pistons were knocking on the door. And yeah, I mean, David Stern used to say it all the time. I mean, the NBA, I mean, it's pretty pathetic that finals games were taped delayed. You didn't even see them live. And then David Stern, he needs something. And then you get Bird and Magic, and you get these two guys that are just maybe polar opposites personality-wise, but playing-wise, I mean, that's what I always say to people when they say, oh, you know, this guy, that guy. I mean, look, LeBron overall going to the rim and his overall game, but Bird could handle the rock. But come on, I would take Bird shooting blindfolded in a jump shooting contest, in an outside shooting contest with LeBron. I mean, hands down, it's not even close. And I'll take Bird over a lot of people. But my point is, well, maybe except for Eric knows how I feel about Ray Allen, man.
Yeah.
I love Ray Allen. I mean, Ray Allen, boy,
Clutch.
Again, Ray Allen and Reggie Miller, I mean, in that lifetime. But I'm just saying, like, but when you look at what the 80s became, and then Michael Jordan putting, yes, the Bulls on the map because of him. You draft Pippen and Grant in the same draft. And, I mean, Horace Grant was one of those pieces that was definitely, again, like you losing Charles Oakley, getting Cartwright, but Horace Grant became that kind of guy that, like, you know, I mean, Michael Jordan, we saw him go at Reggie Miller. We saw him go at Pete. He had no problem going at John Starks and other Pete with the Knicks, those games there, because he wasn't going to back down to the physicality. And, I mean, I like that in the preview too, guys, how we saw about them lifting weights, about how, you know, they hadn't really, you know, trained, but in order to go against the Pistons and get over what was the monster in the Pistons, what Chuck Daly had done. I mean, it's just,
that's 5 and 6, I believe. I think that's 5 and 6.
I think it was
it's 3 and 4.
They're going to Bad Boys.
It's next week.
Oh yeah, Bad Boys is I think 3 and 4.
Week.
Yep.
Yeah. No, the one thing I want to see, because we got to understand, The Last Dance is a Chicago Bulls documentary, not just Michael Jordan. It is centered around him, but it's not the main focus. So I want to see also how Horace Grant and his relationship with management was frosty too, because that was one of the biggest keys to the Bulls being what they were in the early 90s. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I cried when Horace Grant left Chicago and went to Orlando, because I was such a big Horace Grant fan, had goggles on and everything.
It was about awesome. The money.
I know, and that's what I want to hear, because I feel like the ego is just going to build and build year by year, and we'll understand why it came to a boil in 97, 98.
Alex, really quick.
So check it out.
Alex.
So check it out.
Wrap it up for us and take us home, buddy.
All right. So Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen were both drafted the exact same year. I'm glad you mentioned that. Now, they approached their contracts a little bit differently. Jerry Krause was on Pippen each and every day, and he had been for a couple of years. And that's how he stronghold Pippen. He couldn't do that with Horace. Horace was a little bit more of his own man. He knew that Horace was in a completely different situation from Scottie. So he wanted Horace to stay, but at the end of the contract, due to what he saw and how Krause and Reinsdorf treated people, he was like, the second this road stops, I'm going to get a contract and get the hell out of here. I can't stand Krause. And Reinsdorf is barely trustable. So after Jordan's father's tragic death and Jordan decided to retire and go, that's when Horace knew, if I was ever going to get out of here, I'm going to get the hell out of here. And he jumped ship and went to Orlando. You know, and congrats, he went to another final. Too bad he didn't win another ring, because if he would have stayed in Chicago a year and a half later, 45 comes back. Yeah, that's right, 45, not 23. You know, Magic
We
do
all
their
know,
thing,
yep.
and then the Bulls start the 72-9.
10.
Hey, we're going to save this for next week because this conversation
yeah.
can go long. But, gentlemen, thank you for jumping on with me. I definitely
Also,
appreciate this. Go ahead, Jake.
There's one more thing you guys got to realize why they're only doing 2 episodes a week is because they're not even done editing 9 and 10 yet. And they're currently finishing up 5 and 6, and then they're moving on to 7 and 8. So they're kind of doing this for like a week-by-week basis. And my source over at ESPN told me that. So that's why we're getting pushed off on this until May 17th. But here's one thing you guys got to understand. This is going to be around for the rest of our lives because guess what? Netflix was a partner on this. So it's going to be on Netflix forever.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait till they make the DVD and we all get a chance to just watch all the unseen stuff that they didn't put on TV. Hey, guys, open invitation as always. Thursday with the draft, first round picks. If y'all want to jump on, let me know. We're going to do instant reaction. But your man Eric Wilson, Alex Fleming, Jake Rongholt, Mike Carotenuto. Love the collaboration. Love you guys. Stay safe. And as always, wash your hands.